And now for our next speaker. Dr. SherRhonda Gibbs is Dean of the Monfort College of Business at the University of Northern Colorado. Prior to joining UNC, she served as Interim Associate Dean of Accreditation and Analytics and Interim Director of the University of Southern Mississippi's School of Management. She also held the Alvin Williams Endowed Chair of Minority Entrepreneurship. Her research focuses on opportunity recognition and minority entrepreneurs. She's a faculty fellow for the Direct Selling Education Foundation and previously served as Senior Vice President of Membership for the United States Association of Small Businesses and Entrepreneurship and Associate Editor of Management Decision. In 2019, Dr. Gibbs received the Changemaker Award in Entrepreneurship Education from Diana International in recognition for her work and advocacy in advancing women and minority entrepreneurship. And she was recently inducted into USASBE's Longnecker Fellows. Dr. Gibbs earned a PhD in Business Administration with a concentration in management from Jackson State University. Her talk will address the subject of entrepreneurship education. Dr. Gibbs?
Thank you so much, Carlos. I want to thank Dean Silva and Dr. Knox for inviting me to your wonderful conference on entrepreneurship, which is my personal passion. First, I want to ask, is it okay if I share my screen to show a presentation I've presented? Okay, so as mentioned, my name is Sher Gibbs. I go by Sher, and I want to share with you a bit of information about entrepreneurship education and tie it into economic development, which Mr. Doris has so eloquently spoken about already. First, a bit of background about me. I know there's a reputation in academia that all of us are a bunch of eggheads that don't know anything about entrepreneurship. But unlike most academicians, I'm an administrator and an educator. However, I have been an entrepreneur and have started multiple businesses. And prior to that time, I was a software engineer working in corporate America for companies such as IBM and the Mayo Clinic. So when I speak about things, I've done many of these things personally as well. First, I want to start with some definitions. For instance, entrepreneurship education is defined as a way of providing individuals with the ability to recognize commercial opportunities, more insight, self-esteem, and the knowledge and skills to act upon those opportunities. Jones in English, two scholars go on to say it emphasizes imagination, creativity, and risk-taking. There's additional definitions of entrepreneurs as well, or entrepreneurship. Many times people will ask, if you put two scholars in a room and ask them what the definition of entrepreneurship is, you may come up with 5 definitions. So I'm going to give you just a few more that can cover the wide range of what entrepreneurship is. Some say that entrepreneurship is simply applying creativity and innovation towards opportunities in the marketplace. Others say that entrepreneurship is starting a business and venturing. Some recall that it is identifying opportunities, gaps, and problems in the marketplace under conditions of risk and uncertainty, while assembling the resources and the capital in order to leverage or exploit that opportunity. One key distinction I want to point out is the difference between small business and entrepreneurship. Many would say that small business is starting a business in order to support your lifestyle and to generate cash flow. Contrary to this, entrepreneurship is more in line with starting a business for aggressive growth and to dominate the market space. So I want you to be clear on the difference between the two, because we have many people that are small business owners, but what they're doing technically is not considered entrepreneurship. In traditional business education, the emphasis focuses on teaching students quantitative and corporate techniques at the expense of the more creative skills that we emphasize in the entrepreneurship world. Next, I want to talk a bit about the benefits. Why should you care about entrepreneurship education? One, for those who are aspiring entrepreneurs, it increases your intentions to start a business. Outside of those things in general, It increases your confidence or self-esteem. It increases knowledge and skill sets. It allows you to generate practical solutions to problems, recognize opportunities, and be able to write a business plan in comfort. Another thing that entrepreneurship does, as was mentioned by Mr. Doris, is that it generates 65% or more of all the net new wealth in the country. So if your desire is to generate wealth for you and your children, entrepreneurship is the best and most effective solution to that goal. Some of the outcomes of entrepreneurship education includes things such as increasing venturing the number of new businesses. We generate more jobs. So if you want high-paying jobs, typically entrepreneurs are the ones who are providing opportunities for those jobs. There's an increase overall in economic development because of entrepreneurship and entrepreneurship education. From the perspective of municipalities, entrepreneurs increase your business tax collected. It increases sales tax collections and property taxes. And I'll tie in how these things benefit society overall. Entrepreneurs are responsible for producing new innovations such as the electric or hydro-powered vehicles, memory foam, which was a product used by NASA that was later commercialized and put onto the market for consumers to use. Most of you in the audience may have beds that are comprised of memory foam. Companies such as Uber and DoorDash, meal delivery service, all products of entrepreneurs. In general, I can say that entrepreneurship is responsible for improving the overall condition of society as well. Before I begin my discussion on the tie-in, I want to talk about the 4 distinct types of businesses. You have survival businesses, lifestyle, managed growth, and aggressive growth. And I'm going to get into what the differences are amongst each 4 type of businesses. Survival businesses, oftentimes we may call this necessity-based entrepreneurship, provides the owners enough funds to meet their basic physiological needs, such as food to be able to pay bills, to be able to take care of their family. Oftentimes people start businesses solely for the purpose of survival, and this can occur not only in third world countries, but also in Western countries such as the US as well. The second type of business is lifestyle. And a lifestyle business provides its owner the opportunity to pursue or support the lifestyle that they want to lead and make a living while doing things that they love, such as a clothing boutique or personal training, as examples. The third type of business we refer to as managed growth businesses. These businesses typically employ about 10 or more people. They may have multiple locations, and they introduce new products and services to certain regions of the country or markets. Oftentimes your chain restaurants, boutique hotels, or businesses are considered to be managed growth businesses. Finally, the 4th type of business is called aggressive growth. And I believe you heard me mention this term earlier as what we consider high growth entrepreneurship. This is where you bring completely new products and services to the market with plans for high revenue and high profitability. Oftentimes, companies in these industries produce computer software, medical equipment, or they are large national restaurant chains. In addition, a couple of companies I mentioned before, such as Uber, DoorDash, and your Facebooks or Instagrams would be considered aggressive growth companies. Now that we know the 4 types of businesses, I want to discuss the 4 types of entrepreneurs. And perhaps those of you who are listening, you can write down the type of entrepreneur that you are So when you ask a question later of me and Mr. Doris, you'll be able to tell us the type of entrepreneur you consider yourself to be, if any at all. Nascent, novice, serial entrepreneur, and a portfolio or a habitual entrepreneur. A nascent entrepreneur is someone who is thinking about or aspiring to become an entrepreneur. At this point, you're learning in class or learning from other entrepreneurs who may be your role models to understand what it's like. You may even possibly be apprenticing with them in order to learn more about that business. A novice entrepreneur is one who has started their very first business. So they're considered a first-time business owner. They've never started an additional business outside of this first one. And they are learning as they've started their first business how to improve and perfect their craft as a new business owner. A serial entrepreneur is an entrepreneur who has started multiple businesses. Typically, they start one business at a time. And finally, you have the portfolio or the habitual entrepreneurs. These entrepreneurs have started multiple businesses similar to a serial entrepreneur. However, they start multiple businesses at the same time. So they have what we call a portfolio of entrepreneurship-based businesses. Next, I want to tie in entrepreneurship and entrepreneurship education to what Mr. Doris has been talking about. First, the relationship typically between entrepreneurship and economic development has always been a very harmonious, reinforcing, positive relationship. So one typically benefits the other. Both help to drive economic growth and improve society as a whole. They both help to generate new wealth in the economy in order to grow our economic conditions, and they provide employment and sales opportunities. Economic development helps to build infrastructure that's favorable to commerce or to entrepreneurs who have to operate within these infrastructures in order to create and generate and grow their businesses. Economic developers and municipalities typically provide incentives to businesses or loans or building opportunities in order for them to grow and prosper within that environment. Here I've created a chart that shows entrepreneurship on the left and economic development on the right. So I'll just mention a few skills so as not to take up too much time, but entrepreneurship characterized by creativity and innovation, technical skills needed to generate startups, and it improves society. On the reverse side, economic development focuses on community improvements, educational improvements, improvement to transportation, and business policy to grow more wealth in society. As you can see by the arrows, entrepreneurs generate new ideas, tax revenue, and philanthropy, and economic development does more investments in businesses and help them to build capacity. This is just a simple list of sources that I use in order to compile my presentation. But at this time, I would like to go into a Q&A session between myself and Mr. Doris, and then open the floor to the audience for questions. Thank you for your time.